To the Really Helpful Club, and today I'm going to be chatting to Jules Anderson from Feel Glorious, and today we're going to be focusing on Your Power Decade, which is our conference that's coming up on Thursday the 10th of October at Roehampton Club, which is in London in SW15, and we are going to be joined by all sorts of interesting, informative and really empowering speakers all about next decade and making it your power decade. Now, I'm going to be joined by Jules Anderson, who's going to be speaking on one of the panels. And what I want to do is chat to Jules, hello.
Hi.
Can you see you're at 90 degrees wrong?
Oh, am I? Let me
I might, I could
around.
start again, but actually, there's nothing like this. Really proves that this is real, authentic, genuine. Here we go. Lovely, well done.
Let me try and.
Remember I said to you, I get my portrait and my landscape mixed up. It would appear that I've got exactly the opposite of what it should be. And brilliant. Are you all right?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Great.
I might need to hold this in case it falls over.
You're a tiny bit quiet to me. Is your sound on?
It is.
Let me just see if the problem's my end. We've got a few people watching, so there we go. Just say something, Jules.
Is that better?
Much better. I think the problem is probably my end. There you go. So isn't that lucky that we're not running a technology company? And so here we are. We've finally worked it out between us. We're all looking in the right direction, and this is a live with Jules Anderson. And so Jules, welcome.
Hi.
I'm going to chat to you about three things today. I'm going to chat to you about what you do, why you do it. I think the story behind what someone does and how they came to do what they do is usually every bit as fascinating as the destination itself. And then I want us to sort of drill into the Power Decade, where you're going to be one of the key speakers, and talking to you about what Power Decade means to you, and then a little bit about some of the panelists without doing too many spoilers. So and welcome everyone who's joined us. We've got quite a few people already listening in today. If you've got any questions, anything you want to ask Jules, then please pop it on there, but especially around the conference, because what we want to do is just tell people what's coming up. If you've got any questions about if it's something you'd like to attend, then we would like to answer that for you. So Jules, let's talk about your journey and what motivates you. I mean, to me, this is what is the interesting part of what anybody does and why we do it. So tell us a little bit about Jules Anderson, how Feel Glorious came about, and how you help your clients.
Well, I've got a science background. I did a chemistry degree way back, but I've always really studied nutrition, both things like naturopathy and integrative nutrition, so the very science-backed side of it, but also things like Ayurveda, traditional Chinese medicine, and yoga, so integrating very much the sort of East and the West. Also used to do a lot of exercise in my past. Where my kind of turning point was when I did hit midlife, and a lot of what used to work for me in health and fitness and nutrition stopped having the same effect. So that's when I wanted to dive a lot deeper, because actually what we need in our health and in the way we live our lives changes so much when we hit that kind of midlife period. So that's when I kind of did a deep dive, both for myself and for in terms of how I work with clients, looked at studying, again, functional medicine, bringing in aspects of more of our lifestyle, the stress, the sleep, the hormonal changes that we're going through, because we need a different approach. We need a different approach to what we eat, how we eat it, how we live our lives. And if we're prepared to reassess and accept that, rather than just, there's a temptation to deny and power through and carry on what we've always been doing, especially if it's our area of expertise. And actually, it's really powerful to reappraise and look at actually, you know, what used to work doesn't, and maybe I just need to do things a slightly different way. So, you know, I launched my business just before, in about 2011, and it's evolved even across that sort of over a decade now, as you know, there's emerging science coming in all the time, and I'm the science geek. You know, I'm really interested in all the emerging science, which is beautifully aligning some of what was very Eastern traditional knowledge that's been around for millennia. Our Western scientists can now see under a microscope, and all their incredibly advanced technology now, they can, you know, there's scientific evidence for what a lot of the Eastern traditions have known forever. So that's also really interesting. So being able to merge all the new findings, all the new technology that's available to us now as practitioners. And I support particularly people sort of in their 40s, 50s and upwards, because it's such a pivotal point in our lives, and you need an approach that goes way more specific to you than the kind of generalized advice that you tend to see in books and programs and the media and articles and the, you know, influencers. It's much more generic. So yeah, that's a bit of a sort of roundabout view of where I've come from, where I'm going, and because it's such a fascinating and ever advancing topic from the scientific point of view, that what people are being able to see and test and discover, that there's always something new to learn. I'm an avid reader. I'll you know, absorb all the new learnings and new technology. So it's really fascinating being able to integrate this sort of ever increasing amounts of, you know, knowledge, wisdom, insight and findings.
It's really interesting, that, isn't it? You know, you sort of talk about your sweet spot of the people that you're helping, the kind of 40s, 50s, 60s, and you think how those periods really kind of can break down. And you know, this is a little bit sort of stereotypical what I'm about to say, but I think it has some relevance. Is that, you know, in that kind of 40s bit, it is, you're really full on. You know, you might have a lot of caring responsibilities. You know, perhaps like sort of younger or early teenage children. You know, trying to perhaps manage yourself in your career path, or go back to work, or start something new. And, you know, perhaps you've also got your responsibilities around aging parents as well. And so I think the 40s are really full on period, typically, you know, whether you've got children or not, but it's a period of, you know, sort of high activity. And then you go into your 50s, and it's almost as if, you know, you're in your prime. And I think you could say this about your 60s as well. But some of those caring responsibilities change, you know, and your younger teenage children might become older, maybe, you know, start to sort of fly the nest. So you could be going to an empty nest sort of scenario. But also your caring responsibilities don't stop, you know, typically because of aging parents and so forth. But I think it is a time when you then go into your prime, you know, you've got a little bit of extra time to yourself. And it's perhaps the opportunity to be doing some of the things that you haven't had that opportunity or that time to do before. So it's a very important, I think, sort of pivotal moment, depending on where you are in your, you know, family and your responsibilities and stuff and things. But I absolutely, you know, tune in completely to what you're saying. And I think everybody watching, listening will know exactly what you're talking about, where those kind of tried and tested ways of exercising, how to not yo-yo diet, but to, you know, to keep your weight managed, and to feel good, you know, to feel good internally as well as how you look and present externally, is changes. And of course that is, you know, coinciding with that hormonal change. And, you know, the narrative around menopause and perimenopause now is really well trodden. But I still think there's huge amounts of conversation still to be had, where we might normalize a conversation around menopause, but understanding what it does to us, and you know, and how we need to change and pause and reflect in order to be able to embrace that next period of, you know, of your life, your next chapter. So so our conference, which I'm thrilled to bits you're involved in, is called Your Power Decade. It's one of our favorite events we run every year, and it's an exciting conference because it's all about hope, it's all about possibility. And it's about pausing and a journey of self-discovery, a journey of self-empowerment. And it's kind of giving you permission as a guest, as a speaker, as you know, whatever your role is there, to reignite you, to rediscover the magic, you know, rediscover something that's in you that is just waiting to be set free, to be liberated, to be, you know, to be unleashed into your next decade. So I know that the great thing about this conference is there's something in it for absolutely everybody. You are one of our key speakers. You're going to be on the panel, the opening panel. But Jules, why don't you just share with us what Power Decade means to you?
Well, what it is, it's really it's a pivotal transition point. It's a bit like marking a kind of seasonal change.
Yeah.
And the temptation, and what I see in a lot of friends and colleagues, as well as a huge number of female, especially female clients coming to me, although actually you see this in men too, but this almost denial and wanting to carry on as we are, and then judging ourselves negatively for not being able to necessarily do all the things that we could do in our 40s. And actually, I always equate it to a bit like a seasonal change. You know, we're moving right now from summer into autumn. Now, if we were to carry on going out in little tiny t-shirts and all linen clothes and sandals, within a couple of weeks, we'll really struggle. We'll be freezing, we'll get sick, and we'll just be miserable. So it's very much when we hit our sort of, at some point in our 40s and 50s, we have this realization that things are changing. Something I hear from so many clients is, it feels like the best years of my life are over. So you hit these points where things can start to, you know, affect you in, maybe it's a health issue, maybe it's a relationship issue, maybe it's a career sort of that you're suddenly not fulfilled by. There are or challenges with teenage children or elderly parents. There's all these things going on in our lives, and there gets this almost like an almost grieving process of, well, maybe that was it. You know, maybe that was my prime, and it's now a bit of a slide. So the idea that this change of seasons doesn't need to feel, we're treating it a bit like the kind of wearing the summer clothes when it's autumn. That denial, and the denial is preventing us from making the most of what is a great season in itself. So where now, if you pull on, you know, take a jacket with you and an umbrella and a woolly cardigan, then actually you'll be okay. So you start to adjust what you wear, and you take an umbrella, you can really enjoy the autumn for everything that it is, and kick through the leaves and pick up the conkers and all of those things. Enjoy the goldenness of it. And if we just pause for a minute, and this is the hardest part, because as you said rightly at the beginning of this, that our 40s are so full on with commitments, with changes, with kids, with work, with all sorts of stuff, that we're just running to keep up with the train a lot of the time, and all this juggle, and being able to just sit with things for a minute, recognize that actually there's a lot of opportunity ahead of us. We are going to be living a lot longer now, and our 50s and 60s now are very different to 50s and 60s of our parents' generation, and extraordinarily different to what they were for our grandparents. And if we actually, you know, like with the seasons, pause, take stock, do a bit of an audit, and let go of some of the things that maybe aren't serving you anymore, and start to look at actually what we want to take into the future. And whether that's how we deal with our health, what we want in our relationships and friendships and family and circle and communities, you know, just what we want out of our life in general, what we want in terms of our work and our purpose. Having time to stop and take stock. And this is why, you know, that events like Power Decade are so brilliant, because that's what the conversation is all through the speakers and in the room, is all about actually that moment of, if you take stock, you can really recognize your own power and your own agency in making those changes. So it's about actually recognizing that we have that power. And once we do, it can become quite exciting to kind of, it's like a bit of a blank canvas now, you know, the same as, you know, when I've got a teenager who'll be flying the nest soon, and, you know, the world is a blank canvas for them. And it can be the same for us. But we need to particularly take care of all the stuff that we've built over decades, you know, our health, our relationships, our families, our body, our physical health. You know, we've got to nurture that more and recognize it.
It's a really nice analogy that about sort of the changing season, and I think, you know, especially because we happen to be running this conference in, you know, sort of at the beginning of autumn, and I always feel that, you know, that kind of beginning of that school year is so symbolic for all of us. You know, usually come out of, you know, out of a summer period where exactly that, you know, you might have been walking around with no shoes on. You know, it's a time of kind of carefree, just sort of, you know, kind of just being able to almost hide away from, you know, what's troubling you, or you know, it's kind of, it's back to reality. It's like, you know, rentrée, that, you know, how they refer to it in France is, and it's a really symbolic moment, which you're absolutely right. It's all about, if you can take that time, if you can pause, reflect, reset, and then intentionally move forward, it's like it's a springboard for something all about possibility, all about positivity. And what I feel about Power Decade, it's like holding up a mirror to your life, and, you know, the inverse of something can be so difficult. It can be sort of full of negativity, but the opposite of that is about possibility and about positive change. And you're absolutely right, you know, whether that is around your relationships, around your health, about your body confidence, you know, around your financial well-being, getting your legal stuff done. You know, it's sort of everything and anything, where what we know is, if one aspect of it, of your life, is just not functioning, it's not working on whatever level it is, that can really overshadow the rest of it. So this is almost like you say, like an audit. This is, you know, how are you doing on X, Y, and Z? And actually, what if you hold the mirror up and you think about the inverse of this, that actually suddenly you're looking through life through a different lens. It's about positivity and possibility, as opposed to challenge and, as you say, you know, the closing of a chapter, which can be a grieving process in itself. So anyway, I love that analogy. That's exciting. So tell us a little bit about the panel, and about who else is on it, what people are going to expect. Obviously, not too many spoilers. Don't give too much away, but just give anyone watching now, or if they're sort of thinking about coming, what they might expect from your panel, or anything else that sort of, you know, grabbed your attention about the day.
Well, we have got an amazing panel. I mean, I've known the other ladies on the panel for some time now, and they're such wonderful people, and they're such experts in their own field. And what I love is that we're all very much aligned in the way we work with clients and the way we view life and health and all of our sort of specialities, which is, again, very much from a point of empowering our clients, empowering the people that we work with. So we've got, you know, wonderful Pam Custers, who's a relationship expert, that talks about the importance of, you know, really looking at and reflecting on the quality of your relationships and reconnecting with it. Because, you know, in the same way that we get disconnected from our health when we're in that busy 40s decade, we get disconnected. We get disconnected from our bodies, and I'll be talking about that in terms of our health and our physical bodies. And Pam will be talking about how, again, we can become disconnected from relationships, and how it's really important to pause, take stock, and start to really invest. We have to be intentional about investing time and energy in what's really important to us and really valuable for our lives. And then Basanti is going to be, who's wonderful yoga teacher, on understanding the importance and the power of, again, connecting in with our breath, connecting with our bodies, and the power, especially the power of our breath, to be able to recenter us. Especially, you know, we can feel a bit anxious, we can feel a bit wobbly about what our future might be. But you know, these ladies are amazing at being able to kind of get us back to that centre. And then we're being chaired by the fabulous Lucy Patillo, who's got such a inspirational kind of personal story to kind of really back up everything that we're talking about. You know, a kind of pivotal point in her life that made her do a reassess and a pause. So I'm just so looking forward to being able to kind of, you know, share the stage with these great women and talk about, you know, the importance of this. To create, you know, really so we can intentionally redesign our future in a way that's going to be more exciting, more fulfilling, more glorious.
I think that is a wonderful explanation of it. And that kind of like redesign, it's sort of, this is your opportunity to be the architect of your future, to be the master of your destiny and all those other things. But it's about kind of owning, it's the positivity, it's the passive versus the active. It's that actually this is yours for the making, this is yours for the taking. And this is, you know, this is about you and your decade. So if you've been listening to this and you'd love to come and listen to Jules and her other panelists, but that's just not the only thing you're going to hear during the day. We've got 3 other amazing fireside chats and panel discussions as well, plus a lovely breakfast, lovely coffee break and a lovely lunch. So what's not to love? And it's in the beautiful, beautiful surroundings of Roehampton Club. So it's going to be a really lovely, very welcoming, very relaxed, a very sort of inclusive day, full of interesting people, you know, great opportunity to make some new connections, meet other interesting, like-spirited and like-minded people, and for you to be able to put yourself in the driving seat of your next decade, your power decade. Thank you very much, Jules. Lovely to talk to you. Look forward to seeing you on the 10th of October.
Me too, absolutely. Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you. Bye-bye.